So, Neil, founder and CEO of Sailthru. We finally meet. I don't think we have met in person before, have we?
No, this is the first time.
But you visit our site daily.
Daily. Right? I keep a track of everything on there. No, every day.
So, good events here that Business Insider put together.
Fantastic event,
nice
I have to say.
Niche.
Yeah, it's a nice location too.
Yeah.
I haven't been here in years, I don't think.
I've never been here before at the Piers. It's pretty interesting. So, obviously you're into the whole email strategies, email solutions.
Yep.
Pretty big thing now with all these daily deal sites sending email daily.
Indeed.
I'd love to know what the bandwidth cost of that is. But, tell us a little bit about your company. You have some exposure on our site, I think, but for those that don't know about you, give us a little,
Sure.
give us a little elevator pitch.
So we're a behavioral data and analytics communication platform, right? What does that mean? But what it really means is that we actually don't just look at the email list and send out the same email to everybody.
You took email right out of the whole thing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it really is about bringing all the social channels together and not just being about email, because it's about audience engagement and how do you maximize that audience engagement. Sure. So how do you maximize the revenue that you're going to get from a user, and how do you maximize their lifetime value as well, right? And get the maximum out of everybody. At the same time, it's a value exchange, so you're giving the end user what they want as well. And what I mean by that is it's about filtering the content down to that user and being analytical down to that user, so that rather than sending the same mani-pedi deal to everybody on your list today, you actually send the mani-pedi deals to the people that are going to engage with the mani-pedi deals, and the ones that aren't going to engage with that, you don't send that deal to them.
The basic question there is, so how do you know that?
Well, it's tracking, right? You've got to look at every data point, and a lot of what we're saying today here is that you should be tracking every data point that you can get, because there's so many data points that user is giving to you that you can look at on a user level. Most of the time when you're sending emails, everyone's looking at a campaign level.
Sure.
They look at opens and clicks and that kind of thing. But what we're saying is look at the user and look at what they're engaging with. So you actually, look at the fact that so-and-so comes to your site on Thursdays 3 in the afternoon, even though you sent them an email at 9, and look at the fact that they only engage with deals that are in the $30 to $60 range, or the $100 to $300 range. You track the purchase power, you track the conversions, you track the devices that they're on, whether it's their iPad, and you track the frequency. So any data point that you can pick up on those aspects, you should be picking up on, so that you can actually target that and continue to do it.
And so the basic thing is. The basic thing there is, even if I have a subscriber that has subscribed and potentially could be interested in my service, if I'm not hitting them at the right time or with the right offer, I'm doing two things. A, he may never purchase, and B, you might one day just unsubscribe, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's relevance, right? The more you're going into the user's inbox, and you've got to give some kind of value to that. And the respect is that everyone's getting bombarded with too much email right now.
Right.
I mean, if you just look a year ago from today, the amount of email that you get now is vastly increased. So you've got to be as relevant as possible, and you've got to respect that end user down to that level of giving them the right content.
How many times have you heard email fatigue today?
Quite a few times, I'll tell you that. And
that's good for business, right?
No, it's good for business, I guess. But frankly, that's where we're a differentiator too, because we want to look at it. We want to engage your audience. We don't want you to mass mail all the time. We don't want you to continue sending mail to the people that just aren't going to open, which a lot of the email providers out there will happily tell you to do. There is something to be said about being in the subject line and inbox, even if the user doesn't open. But it's a case of not just looking at sort of opt-outs and those that are opening and clicking. What we actually do is we actually have an algorithm that can predict a percentage value when a user is going to disengage. So, and I don't mean opt-out.
Disengage or engage as far as purchase?
Well, so if you've, at the moment, so this algorithm that we're talking about is on the disengagement factor. And the reason for that is that you normally see a user signs up, whether it's a daily deal site, content, or e-commerce, and they're engaged for the first 3 months, right? They're opening, they're clicking, they just signed up. Why wouldn't they be? But after that, the drop-off starts to happen. And if you can actually predict when that drop-off is happening for the user, not for everybody, not for the aggregate, but for that user, you can actually change the messaging at that point.
So Are you just predicting when that would happen, or are you also predicting why?
We're predicting when and looking at the why. Okay. Right, so you can look at the why on an aggregate basis, you can look at that, but the idea being more that you can send an email out and say, okay, if this user is in this zone, I want to put this banner in there, I want to put this free shipping offer, I want to put, you know, I want to put, are we sending you too much email? I want to proactively have a dialogue with a customer, because email has historically not had that dialogue. It's always we're sending, and then you unsubscribe. There's no dialogue. There's no, you know, if you're segmenting, then people are segmenting maybe 5-10 buckets in a day. It's a lot of work. It's effective to the degree of that human segmenting it. But what we're talking about is algorithmically hitting the individual user.
You know, remind me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember other companies that send email out every day, right? You know, you have a lot of companies that send out, you know, engage your customer, you have a newsletter, you know, that's how traditional emails worked. But all of a sudden you have these companies that are reliant on email for success, for revenue, for things like that. So how much of an impact, or how do you track the impact of your services and some of the different things that you just discussed versus the old traditional method of doing it?
Well, I think it's also a new industry, so it's a learning industry, and they've been learning very quickly. And I think that one of the things we should take from that is that they've really editorialized the selling process and the training process. Right? If you were an e-commerce provider, bricks and mortar or so, and you were sending out daily emails, let's say, or even 3 times a week, there was no training process involved. There was just like information. The flash sales are very much a training process. It's like you're going to get this email at 6 in the morning, 9 in the morning, whatever, and you're going to the point where guilt, I think, people would see the email and not open it and just go to the site.
Right.
Now, of course, there's an awful lot more sites since those days, so you have got to realize that there is a training process for these for the flash sales. But the point is that the customer lifetime value is very, very small. Spam has always been unsolicited email, right? That's changed because now spam is it's in the eye of the beholder. It is, if you don't want that email, it's spam, right? So you may have signed up for Groupon, but once it becomes information that you're no longer looking at because you keep sending me waxing deals and I'm not interested, then you just ignore the deal, right? And they may be sending you the best deal ever for you. It might be the perfect deal. And you're not going to see it. And you're not going to look at it, you're not going to see it because you're just trained to bloody ignore it because it comes in every day. You may still not unsubscribe, but the chance of you ignoring that. The case is to actually proactively have dialogue with the customers and tell them, look, we realize you're not opening this. This is what we think we'll put in front of you. We're going to decrease the volume of email we send you. How does that work for you? And then if you do that, you end up with a sine wave of engagement, right? You've got users that you can actually keep in an engagement pattern rather than the historical kind of sign up and then drop off, right? And then you're just trying to re-engage the long tail. You need to be re-engaging, the top of the chart, not the bottom. We've increased, page views on site as well, excluding the commerce transaction by over 60%, right? A lift of over 60%. Open rates by, in an existing sort of normal, going from sending everybody the same content to behavioral, we've seen a 15% increase in opens. And a 28% increase in actual clicks coming from
numbers.
No, they're huge numbers, huge difference. Yeah, complete difference from the normal aspect of like 1 or 2% kind of thing. This is really getting users to engage.
I think we're going to have to review our current provider. That was a joke. When did you start the company?
So we started the company 2 years ago.
You're not small. I mean, you do Business Insider, right?
We do Business Insider. We do Totsi. We do Fab.com. We do publishers from College Humor to all over the place. So we've got a lot of different customers in both formats, including Thrillist.
What type of you did some VC rounds?
We have done a couple of VC rounds. We raised a round back in September. We're 40 people now.
Okay.
Well, actually a bit more than that, but yeah, and we're looking
right here in New York.
Right here in New York, yeah, fantastic.
And you're from London?
I'm from London. I am.
Nice. So how do you like the transition?
Oh, I love it. I'm never going back.
So we hear from a lot of companies that have data and have a solution provider that they may or may not be happy with, but a lot of times they don't know how to interpret that, or they don't have the ability to even kind of understand it. You provide a service that helps with that, or do you analyze that for them?
We analyze it for them, and we do it as a sort of an algorithmic approach to actioning on top of it. You can see into the data, you can pull reports out of that data, and try, and understand the data. But it is big data. So the point being that when you're actually sending out campaigns and that kind of thing, we're automating that process so that we can actually send, 100,000, if it's, or 1 million different emails out to different people, because it's being automated on that data.
Sure.
And we also break that data down into understandable chunks. I mean, if you said, give me everybody on my list who has an iPad that's purchased once, that has an interest in mani-pedis, since we're going down the route, and that's been mentioned a lot today.
Brought it up.
Yeah. That as it goes down that, you can actually bring up all of those users, and then you can look at their descending interests, right? So you can actually say, oh, the users with the iPads that have mani-pedis, that have purchased those, are engaged with X, Y, and Z, and have a purchase power of 0 to whatever. So it's that kind of data that you can get into and understand. At the same time as our targeting approach is actually utilizing that data on a daily basis to actually figure out who and what and when to send.
Where do you see, what are your thoughts on the industry in general? Obviously you're kind of one step removed, but you're right there with it, and I think it has a pretty big impact on your business. Where do you see this whole thing going? The whole flash sales, daily deals, whatever you want to call it these days?
I think there will be some aggregation in the market at some point. I think that...
We already have.
Yeah.
We've, lost 798 sites between June and December of last year. It's a big...
That's a big
months.
Yeah. And I think that not to plug it again, but I think the winners are going to be those that are relevant.
Yeah.
And sort of bigger picture style for me, I think it's more about a customized web for your customers, right? You go to the site, you're presented different things. You're presented, at that engagement factor. When you come from Facebook, when you come from Twitter, we know who you are. We know what they want, and we're putting the right content in front of that user, whether it be an offer or even content.
Sure.
You've got to be engaging at the time they come to you, and it's about knowing even every single user, so that you can actually be able to provide that to them.
Largest competitors? Who are your biggest competitors out there?
I guess you could call Exact Target and Silverpop and those and Responses maybe, but they don't cover what we do. I mean, they do email, right? I mean, if you look at a person that signs up for a Business Insider as a publisher, maybe they're just signing up to place a comment, but they don't want the emails. Right, that person never even makes it to those guys.
Right.
We want to know about that guy because we want to know about the people that come to the site that don't want emails. So we're a very different beast from these guys.
They're a different name. How'd you come up with the name? I like it.
Sailthru came up with it's Sailthru into the inbox. Really, you got to get in.
No, it makes sense.
You got to get in, and you got to be engaged. And the way to be engaged is to actually, you will end up in the inbox if you're engaging to the end user. It's not, just eradicate the kind of spam factor and be respectful of that user.
Sailthru, thank you.